Thank you very much, Acting Speaker. And I rise to speak on the State Taxation Further Amendment Bill 2025. And I note it is 3 o'clock on the Thursday afternoon, and we will have very, very little time to debate the State Taxation Bill that will see Victorians slugged with a further $100 million a year in taxation revenue from the Allan Labor government. And because we have so little time to debate this piece of legislation, I will keep my contribution shorter than what it would have been, so that my colleagues have an opportunity to talk about the impact of the Allan Labor government's taxation on their constituents and on all Victorians. Acting Speaker, this bill, like so many bills before it, is little more than a tax grab by a cash-strapped Labor government desperate to find revenue to plug its ever-growing debt in this space. The government might try to present this bill as a clerical bill, tinkering around the edges of Victoria's taxation system, but buried within it are two significant tax increases that illustrate just how bereft of ideas this government has become with managing the finances in this state. The first is the completely unjustifiable hike on the congestion levy payable on car parks in the CBD and surrounding suburbs. And the second is the completely shameless tax grab that increases the pet registration fees on dogs and cats and greyhounds in this state. Now, this is a tax that will be passed on to pet owners or have to be absorbed by already stretched local councils. Acting Speaker, I'll give a very brief overview of some of the more uncontroversial measures in this bill before delving into these significant cash grabs in more detail. First, the bill makes some changes to the Land Tax Act that will affect the application of the vacant residential land tax, exempting residential properties in Dinner Plain from the VRLT in a belated recognition of the area's alpine conditions and seasonal use. Now, when the government expanded the VRLT from 1 January this year, they exempted all alpine resort areas, but for some reason, they forgot about Dinner Plain, which is the only Victorian village located at a similar altitude to the alpine resorts. But the properties at Dinner Plain are largely under freehold ownership, and the VRLT has been applied to properties in this area, which are largely not occupied outside the winter season. I note this amendment will actually apply retrospectively from 1 January 2025, and the SRO will identify and contact Dinner Plain owners who paid the vacant residential land tax to arrange refunds. Acting Speaker, I will flag here that I intend to move textual amendments to this bill because this measure in particular is an appropriate set in fixing what is the government's stuff up in the first place and seeing Dinner Plain property owners slugged with this tax unfairly and now having to seek refunds. Can I take this opportunity to congratulate... Not too long, just wait for it. I take this opportunity to congratulate a number of coalition members who have been fighting for residents in Dinner Plain, fighting for them to have this vacant residential land tax removed so that these residents do not have to pay the tax when other alpine resorts do not have to do so. Acting Speaker, this bill also clarifies how foreign purchaser duties, absentee owner surcharges and the first homeowner grant apply to New Zealand citizens, ensuring that to qualify for exemptions, New Zealanders must show they ordinarily reside in Australia for at least 6 months. But these amendments align these particular measures to the taxation conditions that generally apply to special category visas which are exclusive to New Zealand citizens. Another change in this bill is to make the Land Tax Act is the creation of a new land tax exemption. Now, the exemption will apply to land valued under $300,000 where the owner lives on that land in a non-permanent dwelling such as a caravan or a tent. Currently, these people are subject to land tax, but this will mean that vulnerable people who do not yet have the means to build a more permanent home on their land are no longer being penalised by the tax system. The bill also makes changes to the application of the Commercial and Industrial Property Tax, the CIPT, clarifying that properties only enter the scheme where duty is paid on 50% or more of the property's value. It introduces the duty exemption for transfers between trustees and custodians to simplify administration. And the bill also amends a number of acts to simplify various taxation processes, including allowing electronic service of documents under the first homeowners grant, raising the land tax hardship relief threshold from $1,000 to $5,000 to allow more cases to be heard by the SRO Commissioner rather than the Hardship Relief Board in order to speed up decision times. And finally, I note the bill clarifies how building permit levies are calculated, establishing a formula for how construction costs are to be determined for the purposes of the building permit levy. But, Acting Speaker, I now want to turn to the real substantive parts of the bill. And I want to be very, very clear about the significant increase to the congestion levy that this bill proposes to implement. The bill will increase Category 1 area rate levy from $1,750 to $3,030 per leviable parking space. It will increase the Category 2 area rate levy from $1,240 to $2,150 per parking space. This represents a 73% increase on both Category 1 and Category 2 levies. But to make matters worse, Acting Speaker, the bill expands the Category 2 area east into parts of Burnley, Cremorne, South Yarra, Windsor, Richmond, Abbotsford and Prahran. That means that car parks, for the first time in the City of Yarra and the City of Stonington, that have not been previously liable for the congestion levy are now being hit with more than $2,000 per space. $2,000 per space. This, Acting Speaker, is a blatant tax grab by the Allan Labor government that will be passed on to Victorians who are already feeling cost of living pressures. The proposed levy increase will impose an additional average cost of $13 per day plus GST to car park spaces in the CBD. $13 per day to a car park space in the CBD. This cost will be passed on to everyday Victorians. Regional Victorians coming in to the CBD to see a medical specialist will pay more. Victorians living in the suburbs who want to go to see a show or watch a game of footy will be slugged. Victorians living with a disability for whom public transport is not always an option will pay more to get into the city. Not everyone can take public transport, and for many reasons, people need to drive into the CBD. But under the Allan Labor government, once again, that just got more expensive. If you're heading into the city to go to dinner, to go to the theatre, you want to go into another cultural activity that Melbourne has to offer, you may not want to take public transport home at night. Driving in and parking in the city should be an option that is available to everyday Victorians and is not so expensive that it is out of reach. But under these changes, once again, that is going to change because the Allan Labor government cannot manage the finances in this state. But it's not just people wanting to come into the city that will pay for this tax hike, Acting Speaker. It is now people who want to go into Prahran. It is people who want to go into Albert Park, Fitzroy. All of these suburbs, for the first time, are going to be hit with the congestion levy. For the first time. For the first time. It will be the small business owners and operators on Bridge Road, on Chapel Street, in Albert Park and Fitzroy that will suffer under the Allan Labor government's tax hike because this is a blatant tax grab from a government that cannot manage the finances and is seeing net debt soar in this state. It will result in fewer customers and less foot traffic. Many small businesses in this state are already struggling to keep their heads above water because of the dire economic conditions under the Labor government. They've already been slugged with COVID debt levies and a manner of all labour fees and charges, more than 60 tax increases, fee increases, levy increases over the past decade under the Labor government. And the reality is that this tax hike goes to the very heart of the decline of Melbourne. The CBD and its surrounding suburbs were once thriving and dynamic, centres of culture and enterprise. But the impacts of COVID, Labor lockdowns and Labor's debt have beaten down people and the traders of Melbourne. We hear it every single day. We feel it on the streets, and if you just have to talk to any business owner in this state to hear the pressure they are under the Allan Labor government. In fact, in the words of a former Labor member in the other place, Phil Dalidakis, Melbourne now feels angrier, edgier and more brittle. More brittle. In his column in The Age last week, he had many heads nodding around Melbourne that know that feeling and that sadness when it comes what has happened to Melbourne under the Labor government. And this is just another example of how it is going to be harder to revitalise the CBD. And instead of working to revitalising our capital city, making it a global destination, what is the government doing? It's taxing. It's taxing. Now, this isn't about congestion, because we asked the Treasurer's Office what modelling had been done to inform the increases. Infrastructure of Victoria in 2017. In 2017. 10 years ago. That's right, the member for Evelyn. What modelling has been done to inform how much these taxes have increased by? None. None, the Treasurer's Office told us. Absolutely no work had been done. Maybe they might do some data analysis after the fact. But no modelling had been undertaken to inform the increase in the tax hike under this change. This is a government that has lost control of the finances. And everywhere you turn, they are looking for an opportunity to tax Victorians more. $85 million a year on this, the congestion levy. For the first time, expanding it into suburbs that are desperate to get the foot traffic up, small businesses that are looking, who use cars to get to these places, to go to restaurants. Every single day, Victorian restaurants, Victorian small businesses are seeing the decline of consumer confidence in this state, and it is this government and tax hikes like this that make it impossible to revitalise this city and this CBD. Acting Speaker, I just want to finish on the other tax hike in this bill. The congestion levy increase, 73%, but there is a 100% increase on another tax in this bill, and that is the levy that the state government puts on every cat and dog and greyhound registration in this state. This bill will double the amounts payable to the state government from cat and dog registration fees collected by councils, an 100% increase. If it woofs, if it purrs, Labor will tax it. Oh. That is the reality. That is the reality of where the finances are at in this state. Not even your pet dog or your pet cat is safe from the Allan Labor government. When asked the Treasurer's Office how will this be passed on to consumers, will it be passed on to pet owners, the Treasurer's Office said, oh well, they might pass it on, or councils could just try to absorb it. Once again, this is cost shifting on to local councils. Just like the emergency services tax, this is the reality of the Allan Labor government. Every opportunity it gets, cost shift to someone else. Put a tax on the pet dog or the pet cat. This is one of those taxes that will resonate with Victorians, because if you own a dog or a cat, like over 1 million households do in this state, you do not expect the Allan Labor government to come after them with a new tax. This just highlights how desperate this government is for tax revenue. And why? Because under this government, we have the highest debt in the country, soaring towards $200 billion in coming years. And what will that mean? That every day Victorians will be paying an interest bill of over $29 million, or $1.2 million an hour. But as we see that net debt soar, what is the answer from the Allan Labor government? that we are going to put up taxes at every opportunity to make it harder in this state to do business, to cut the cost of living, or to even own your own pet dog or pet tax.